So for the longest time, I've read articles, I've seen videos. Everyone wants to share their morning ritual, their morning routine, some of the things that they do to help get their day primed and get started out properly. Now, I don't know about you, but I used to watch these videos and think to myself, yeah, this is just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. No one does this stuff. I was thinking to myself, people say they do these, you hear these CEOs tell you things like they wake up at 5 o'clock, they're meditating, they're praying, they're working out. I'm like, who has the time to do that every single day? Every day, Monday through Sunday, you're doing that 365 a year? I don't know. I was thinking, it sounds good, it reads well in an article, but no one does this. So I'm thinking, you know what? I love talking trash about things. I love saying, yeah, no, that doesn't work. How would it ever work? But here's the thing, I don't have a morning routine. I didn't have a morning routine. So I said, well, you know what? How can I keep talking badly about things? How can I say that they won't work unless I try them myself? So I said, all right, let's start trying some of these. So first was waking up earlier. I've always been for the most of my life, I was a late riser because I was a late sleeper. I love to sleep late. Ever since I was a young child, I don't know, I would always stay up late watching movies. Then as I became a working adult, I would commute. I was a commuter. I lived in Long Island and I was commuting into the city for the longest time. So I would legit get home from work like 10, 11 o'clock at night and then have to rinse, wash, and repeat. So it was hard for me to just go to bed. I mean, that's what you should do. But I would stay up. I would have a beer or something like that. Then I'm watching videos, catching up on all of the things that I felt I should have done with my free time. And then maybe on the weekends I would catch up on sleeping, but really not much at all. Probably going out, hanging out with friends, doing that sort of thing. So hard for me to wake up early. Hard to wake up early when you're sleeping so late. So I had to start incorporating changes. I became a group fitness instructor and I decided specifically to start teaching first thing in the morning. Mostly because it was going to force me to wake up. If you have to teach a class at 6 o'clock, it's not like you can keep hitting snooze. People are relying on you. People are going to be there for you. So I started teaching a 6 a.m. class on Fridays, one of the hardest days of the week, right? Now I had to start convincing myself to get to bed a little bit earlier on Thursdays. And I'll tell you, it was a process. It took some time because I would still end up sleeping late just by default, 1, 2 o'clock, then sleeping 3, 4 hours and trying to wake up at 5:15 in order to teach a class. Feeling like trash, bags under my eyes. And I lead like a pretty active class. It's done to music. I'm motivating people. It's hard to motivate people when you're not getting enough sleep. So that started forcing me okay, buddy, you're gonna have to start sleeping a little bit earlier. Now, I'll tell you, I don't necessarily sleep that much earlier. I can sometimes get to bed at 11. It's more like an 11:30, 12 to be quite honest. But even doing that, waking up at 5 a.m. once a week, started training my body to wake up earlier. So honestly, now I don't even need an alarm anymore. I typically wake up by default around 5 o'clock, 5:15 every day without an alarm. Typically, if I don't have something to do, I'll just go back to bed, but I do like to stay up. So now I'm waking up early, incorporated, and kind of love it, really into it. For example, this Friday now, I taught a class at 6 a.m. And now, I did laundry already, did some shopping, recording a couple videos. I will try to edit, but I'm probably going to do that later because it's the 4th of July. So I'm going to pick my son up and we're going to head out to Long Island to hang out with my family. So that's just one of the examples of how waking up in the early just starts to energize you. I will say it's a process. It doesn't start immediately. When you're not sleeping well, you will not feel energized. In fact, sometimes I would teach my 6 o'clock class and then I'd come back home and take a nap just because I was so drained. But I will say, waking up early seemed to just invigorate me so much. I mean, I'm always Mr. Energy now. I don't even drink coffee anymore. Just in case you think this energy, this exuberance is coming from caffeine. No caffeine at all. Mostly water and electrolytes. So waking up early, I think, is one of the habits that I've really enjoyed the most. When you wake up early, if you have a full-time job, you have side hustles, and you have other projects that you want to work on, maybe you want to start reading a little bit more. Maybe you're teaching yourself another language. But waking up early in the morning, giving yourself that extra time allows you the opportunity to do these things. Maybe you want to work out. That's another time. Working out first thing in the morning can be beneficial to you. And I would say if you're trying to work out and incorporate that into your day, just know you don't necessarily have to get all prepared and go to a gym. You can just do some calisthenics. Grab a jump rope. Jumping rope for 5-10 minutes will give you all the cardio you need. A couple of times a week, you'll be crushing it. Do some calisthenics, some push-ups, some resistance training, some squatting. I think everyone should do some resistance training. That's another habit of mine. I've done that my whole life though, so it's not something that I've had to incorporate. But if it's not something that you do, I think the waking up early and working out, I think that definitely helps to prime you. First of all, you get your heart rate up. You get some cardio out of the way. I think all of these things are important, especially as you age. I think you want to remain active because if it's not something you do regularly, especially fitness, waking up early, things like that are easier to incorporate. But fitness, if it's not something that you've already started making time for, it's hard to start those things off from scratch later on in life. So I would mention that. Another habit was meditating. So I got initiated into TM, Transcendental Meditation, like a year or a little bit after the pandemic. And I'll say honestly, it's one of those habits one of those things that I picked up, kind of add it to your bag of tricks, but it's something that I don't regularly do. It's like you're supposed to do it in theory twice a day, 20 minutes in the morning when you first wake up, 20 minutes later on in the day. I don't do that at all. I wasn't even doing it really. I would do it like once in a blue, just because my mind was wandering. It wasn't necessarily working for me, so I got a little bit frustrated. But now that I started waking up early, I said, okay, now I have the extra time. So I'll tell you, quite honestly, I don't have time for 20 minutes all the time. I typically have a bunch of other things to do, so sitting silently for 20 minutes doesn't necessarily work for me. So I've incorporated more of like a stretching routine, and then some quiet sitting, I have some visualizing, things like that. Well, I'd say things like that. So visualizing, I will say. So Tony Robbins, he's a lifestyle guru. He's all about optimizing your performance. So he calls it priming your day. You basically sit for 10 minutes. You do some, okay, this camera's moving all over again. You do some power breathing for 10 minutes. Then you visualize. Wait, my camera is just going crazy right now. Doesn't want to focus on me. All right. I guess that's what happens when the shadows are dropping. I'm not sure if I locked it or whatever the case is. So visualizing. So according to his routine, you want to think of three tasks that you want to accomplish, whether they're short-term goals or long-term goals, and you think about them and you envision that they've already been accomplished and see how that makes you feel, Doing that, visualizing those things, it helps to prime your mind and get yourself set for getting those things accomplished. Another part of it is visualizing 3 times in your life where you were very happy. It's a whole routine. I can get into it, but it's all part of priming your day and, visualizing, being happy. What's the term? I forget the term now. I didn't script this out at all. Figured I would just go off the top of my head, and occasionally when you do that, gratitude. There we go. I figured if I keep speaking the word gratitude, try to have some gratitude. It's important to express gratitude throughout your day because otherwise you sometimes take things for granted. So there's waking up early, having a nice morning routine that includes a little bit of quiet time, some reflection, some planning things out, maybe a little bit of meditation. So I do the priming your day, the deep power breathing. I do some stretching, and then I try to sit down silently for 5 to 10 minutes. Hey, it's slowly training your brain. Let's say that's what it is with meditation. You're just training your brain to stop focusing for a little while. Everyone can use a little bit more of that. And I also do a little bit of stretching. So the yoga, the stretching routine, I'd say all of that very beneficial, especially if you're a stiff person. As we get older, a lot of us sit behind desks all the time. You want to stretch because when you don't stretch, you start getting sore. And when people start getting sore, they stop using the body parts. I don't ever want to do that. I always want to stay fit and active. So stretching has definitely been a beneficial part of my day. I've actually nearly have my front splits down. I'm a couple inches off of the ground, which is crazy. I could never do the splits, not even as a child. I've never been flexible. But about 2 years of incorporating this morning routine, and I slowly started getting flexible. So how about that? Now, just like with anything, right? You start incorporating these changes, they're not necessarily going to feel like much at first. You're probably going to think to yourself, I don't feel any changes. I don't feel different. And I will tell you the truth. I didn't feel any different. I didn't feel different at all. I'm waking up. I was cranky. All of these things. But slowly slowly they started to resonate with me. I also started drinking less. I have a whole other video about my decision to stop drinking, but that's another part of my day that I enjoy. Well, I'm not sure if that makes so much sense. It's something that I cut out that kind of made all of the other rituals or other routines that I added, it started to help them stick a little bit more. Another thing, maybe the final one here, is to read. I'm not sure if you're a big reader, if you've ever read, but they say we don't really read much anymore. We kind of scroll and read articles online. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actually reading novels, reading books, exposing yourself to different ways of thinking, exposing yourself to other authors. Also, reading is also good for improving your vocabulary. I feel like a lot of us, we get stuck in using the same words and thought patterns all the time. So it's good to break that up every once in a while. And I like to read. I kind of like old school. I used to work in the library when I was younger, so I kind of like the smell of books and the smell of libraries. Don't use a library much, but I do like the feel of books. So I do like flipping pages. It's not always conducive to just having, I always have a bag full of gear, bag full of camera and everything, so I can't always carry a bunch of books with me. So I have started using my Kindle more. And I kind of like that because I have 3 or 4 books I'm currently reading, which is fun. So I'd say invest in a Kindle. It's not a lot. You can even find a nice refurbished one off Amazon if reading books is actually what you like to do. You can also do Audible. I know some people like to listen to novels. I prefer listening to podcasts. I'm learning a new language now, so I typically would listen to podcasts in French right now, but I do like to read. So morning time, when I'm up a little early, I will read occasionally, but it doesn't always work in the morning, so sometimes I'll just do it if I'm commuting into the city. Sometimes in the evening, I'll try to read for a couple minutes. But those are some of the daily habits, the daily rituals that I've incorporated. They're helping me. I'm not doing any of these crazy things like taking an ice plunge. I would like to try that, but I know some of those CEOs have said in their articles that they'll do an ice plunge every single day. I don't know if I'm there yet necessarily, but the few changes I've incorporated are starting to really work. Took a little time chipping away at them. I don't necessarily do every single one of these things every day either. You got to give yourself time. Sometimes on the weekends, I work like 2 jobs a day. Now, if I continue filming, it'll be 3 jobs a day. So occasionally I'd like to sleep in on a Saturday or a Sunday when I take off from teaching. So just so you know, give yourself some time. You're not a failure if some of these things you try to incorporate don't work out every single day. Rome wasn't built in a day, like they like to say, and you're probably a little bit more complex than Rome. I don't know. Well, you're more special to Rome. It's more special to me than Rome is. I don't know. Where am I going with these sentences? Who knows? Anyhow, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Do you have some morning rituals, some things that you'd like to start doing? Some things you want to start making more time for? Why don't you let me know in the comments what those are? Tell me if there are any parts of my morning ritual that resonate with you. Let me know what they are. And other than that, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. You enjoy the rest of your day, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I hope that you have a lovely rest of your day. And I sincerely thank you for taking the time to watch this video and hang out with me. Talk to you all later. Take care now.